Hey now, it's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. On July 7th, 1996, WCW fans tuned into the Bash at the Beach pay-per-view to watch three of WCW's biggest stars battle Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, along with a mystery partner in a main event billed as the Hostile Takeover. The wrestling world stood still as Hulk Hogan joined Nash and Hall, turning heel and changing the wrestling landscape for years. However, how did the New World Order form? What led WWF superstars Kevin Nash and Scott Hall to leave for WCW? And why wasn't the Hulkster willing to join the group? Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments takes a look at Bash at the Beach 1996, the birth of the NWO, Part 1. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button, and hit that notification bell, that way you're notified as soon as Part 2 drops. The New World Order is considered one of wrestling's greatest success stories, along with its greatest example of excess. But how was the faction formed? Was it just a matter of throwing A-list talent together, or was it something more complex? Eric Bischoff has been criticized in the past for doing little more than stealing stars from other promotions, mainly the WWF. However, the WWF engaged in the same exact behavior during the 1980s, with Vince McMahon pilfering talent from multiple territories. As fans have seen countless times, most recently with AEW, All Elite Wrestling, acquiring talent is only the beginning. Utilizing the talent is the key to success. Bischoff believed, however, he had found the key to success, with the primary key being storytelling. During his time in WCW, Eric Bischoff developed a formula for creating engaging storylines to captivate the audience and keep them coming back for more. In his book, Controversy Creates Cash, Bischoff discussed his storytelling formula, SARSA. I started preaching the formula to my writers. I called it SARSA: story, anticipation, reality, surprise, action. The man who would later be nicknamed ATM Eric for his generous WCW contracts had read about NBC producer Dick Ebersol's efforts to increase ratings for the Olympics by drawing in viewers with story, action, and surprises. Bischoff expanded on this by adding anticipation and reality. By 1996, the business had been exposed and fans were aware of wrestling's worked nature, but Bischoff still wanted to blur the line. To keep the audience in that sweet spot where they were willing to suspend their disbelief, where they were guessing whether things were real or not, we needed a certain level of reality. Real life mixed in with the storylines and angles blurred the distinction between entertainment and reality. SARSA wasn't the only component to WCW's success, but as we'll see, it played a key role in the success of the New World Order and the storyline leading to its debut. In 1996, WCW acquired the services of wrestlers Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, two key players in the WWF at the time. What caused two of the WWF's biggest stars to leave? Well, according to Eric Bischoff, Scott Hall was friends with Diamond Dallas Page, who lived near me and who would occasionally stop by on a Saturday afternoon for a beer. One Saturday, Page came by and we started shooting the He said, "Hey, I've been talking to Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and they're interested in making a move." There was interest on Bischoff's part, not only because the two could help WCW, but because their departure might hurt the WWF. Bischoff notes, "Knowing what the situation really was and whether I could trust them, I used Page as a go-between. The pitch was, you come over here and you'll get a guaranteed paycheck and you'll work less." WCW was growing and Bischoff wanted to provide fans with new talent. Hall and Nash had previously worked in WCW with limited success, but thanks to their WWF careers, they were now well-known commodities and top guys. Bischoff spared no expense in bringing Hall to WCW. According to James Dixon's book, Titan Shattered, WCW offered Hall a gigantic $750,000 per annum 3-year guaranteed contract. The deal was made even sweeter with a date cap of 150 shows per year and a favored nations clause that promised to match any contracts that WCW may offer other performers in the future. It was a deal too good to pass on, and Hall accepted it, giving Vince notice. Hall shared the details of the deal with Nash, and it was a tempting prospect for Nash, whose WWF deal was expiring soon. According to Titan Shattered, Nash was reluctant to leave, especially after McMahon had kept him as WWF champion despite a downturn in the business. However, when Bret the Hitman Hart complained about a finish involving a match between himself and Nash, the big man blew his top. According to Dixon, he realized that his time at the top of the mountain was over, and he would likely be employed to put others over from that point forward. He felt that McMahon had lost his faith in him. While McMahon reportedly wanted to keep Nash, he couldn't match WCW's offer, and more importantly, he couldn't or wouldn't provide a guaranteed deal. Eric Bischoff knew he had two tremendous talents coming to WCW, but how would he use them? First, the WCW executive had to make it clear to Scott Hall that he wasn't going to put up with any of the antics Hall was well known for in the WWF. Once that was settled, Bischoff got down to business and realized that with both stars, he already had a built-in storyline. Hall and Nash wouldn't just be two former WCW stars returning for payback, but with WCW being headquartered in Atlanta, they would be depicted as invaders from up north, which at the time, the saying up north was well known as being code for WWF. This would tie in with Bischoff's goal of building storylines where fiction and reality were hard to distinguish. Hall appeared on Nitro confronting announcer Eric Bischoff and promising another wrestler would soon be there. Hall included elements of the Razor Ramon character he'd played in the WWF, which only confused fans further. Scott Hall proclaimed that WCW had wanted a war and they were going to get one. Was this the beginning of a program between the WWF and WCW? Bischoff's booking suggests this was the impression he was trying hard to create. And like any good business person, Bischoff was always looking to see what worked in his industry and how to improve. This led to a revelation during an overseas trip. I was visiting Japan and seeing packed crowds at the Tokyo Dome, so I studied the difference between what was being presented in America against what was in Japan. The biggest difference was that it was treated so real in Japan. I'm talking about the talent, the fans, and even the media. The realism Bischoff witnessed was also seen in an invasion angle going on at the time between New Japan Pro Wrestling and the promotion UWFI, the Union of Wrestling Forces International. What if two well-known WWF wrestlers showed up in WCW and claimed they were there to destroy the company? In 2021, Scott Hall reminisced on how the storyline unfolded at just the right time. It was a different time. The internet was not as prominent as today. People thought it was real. Other WCW wrestlers thought it was real. We sold the story that Vince sent me and Kev to join Hulk and cancel WCW. Wrestling fans had seen invasion angles before, but with mixed success. Bischoff had no intentions of a lukewarm reaction. As noted in James Dixon's Titan Shattered, if booked correctly, two diametrically opposed organizations presented on equal footing but espousing conflicting ideologies could be box office gold for years, if not decades to come. Of that there was no doubt. WCW versus NWO was going to be the biggest angle in wrestling history, and best of all, as the puppeteer pulling the strings of both factions, Bischoff knew he was guaranteed to end up on the winning side regardless of the storyline outcome. Bischoff knew he had two prime pieces in place, but he needed a third man to round things out. It had to be someone unexpected and a star of such magnitude that fans would take notice. One man came to mind, but there was one problem. The wrestler in question wanted nothing to do with Bischoff's idea, and nothing could force him to change his mind. As fans know, Hogan ultimately joined the group. But what changed his mind? Join us in part 2 as we look at what convinced the Hulkster to become Hollywood Hulk Hogan, how the WWF almost stopped the New World Order from forming, and how the group ultimately led to the WWF buying WCW. What are your memories of the NWO? Where do you rank them in wrestling's long list of factions? Share your thoughts in the comments section and let us know if there are any videos you'd like wrestling's greatest moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and spread the good news about wrestling's greatest moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.